the next thing that we're going to be doing on Wednesday and Thursday of next week is talking about possible Civil War topics. So just to kind of give you a visual, this was a quote, "Will you make war upon us and kill us all? Why, gentlemen, I think you are as gallant and as brave men as alive, but being inferior in numbers, you will make nothing by attempting to master us." That was what Abraham Lincoln said to the Confederacy. So here are some potential topics, just to give you some visual of them. Okay, so one of them is Anderson prison camp, which is one of the many prison camps, and it was one of the most shocking prison camps. You will see some really, sad and disturbing pictures if you choose to do this one. Artillery is the cannons involved, so if you're really interested in the military cannons and other things like that. You can talk about Civil War in St. Louis. There are things like Camp Jackson that we've already mentioned and go a little bit more in depth. We have some resources. This is a little bit of a harder topic, but is definitely possible. Clara Barton, who was a nurse for the Red Cross at this time, and so pretty interesting woman. John Wilkes Booth, who is the murderer of Lincoln. So Matthew Brady is another topic, very common one about the photography in the Civil War. The cavalry is the people riding on horses, so the strategic ideas behind those riding on horses. The role of currency and the way the monetary system of the time period. This is a very challenging topic. Daily life of a soldier. This is a very fun topic. A lot of really interesting stuff about what they were doing in camp. Jefferson Davis, who was the president of the Confederacy. The draft riots in 1863, kind of an interesting topic, a little bit more specific. Drummer boys and the buglers, so the people, the young kids who were at the front of the war. So the 54th Massachusetts was an all African American army. We have lots of books about them called Undying Glory, and so this would definitely be another option. General Ulysses S. Grant, who fought for the Union side. He's a very interesting, and there's lots of information on him. So women working on the home front and all the jobs and things that they did to support being at the home front and what it was like for them. Lots of challenges and exciting moments. The ironclads are the types of ships that were all made of iron. They had some important battles and some important roles to play. Another person is General Thomas Jackson, who is a very well-known and very famous general of the Civil War. General Robert E. Lee, the head of the Confederacy, and also a very, very famous general. Mary Todd Lincoln, obviously the wife. There's lots of information about her. Lincoln's legislation, or even just doing a really in-depth look at Lincoln. So not just kind of the surface level, which we've covered in class, but really delving into what he did, some of the laws he passed during this time period, and looking at him from a more political aspect. General George McClellan, one of the worst generals of the Union Army, but still a person you could study. Medical practices, which we will highlight during the Jefferson Barracks trip, but also you could delve more deeply into it and get into much more specific details. The role of Missouri, there are several battles in Missouri history that you could do specifically, or the way that Missouri was in general. Order number 11 would be included in this, and a little bit mention of Wilson's Creek and Pilot Knob. Music and morale, what are the different songs that they use, what are the different songs that were made at the time, looking at all of the different songs that we can find. There is definitely other pieces of new technology, such as hot air balloons, stethoscopes, and other things were invented during the Civil War. So looking at an array or broad ideas of things invented. William Quantrill was a famous Missouri bushwhacker who did a lot of damage on the border between Kansas and Missouri. He was generally pro-Confederacy and anti-Union. So he's got an interesting figure, a little bit of a dense piece of information. So how did they get people to join the Army? William T. Sherman, another very interesting general for the USA or Union Army, and a really cool guy who also lived in St. Louis for a little time. Spies, there are a lot of famous spies and some not so famous spies, but can be a really interesting topic. West Point Academy, where most of these people were trained. Women soldiers, a lot of women joined. This can be a little bit dense, but there's a lot of different specific examples and broad reasons why. Looking at those. There are a lot of different other battles that you could do. So when we're looking at our Civil War research, we can do any of these different battles. There are some ideas down here like Second Battle of Bull Run, Fredericksburg, Battle of the Wilderness, Wilson's Creek, Chattanooga, Battle of Pea Ridge, Chancellorsville, Shiloh, Pilot Knob, Stones River, and Order number 11. These are definitely much more challenging topics. You really should only do a battle if you really like military history, military tactics. If you're more interested in a person, then here are some ideas of all the people you could do. And then these are other topics that we talked about. The stars mean that they're super challenging. So those are all different things that you can do as your topics. So after we've gone over the visuals, what I want you to do is spend some time looking at this document that will also be posted on Google Classroom. And really do 45 minutes of digging, looking at some of these topics, clicking on these links, and looking at them and getting to know them and ranking your choices from 1 to 4. What is your first choice, second choice, third choice, and fourth choice? And then the week after that, we'll come up with some questions and start our research. We'll be spending the time before spring break doing the research, and a little bit of time after spring break finishing up like a project. On it, it'll be a really simple project, not really messy or big and bulky like we did last time, something that we can get done pretty quickly. Okay, so again, your job right now is to look up these topics, find different links, and just do a little bit of background research. All right. If a link doesn't work, you can let me know, and always trusty use things like World Book to do it. You can also use some other sites like Civil War Trust. CivilWar.org is another really good site that you could use.